Welcome, everybody. This is the second live stream for today. The first one was about the earnings report, and this one should be the management call. Let's get settled here. Wow, already 80 viewers. Nice. Looks like America is waking up. Greetings to everybody on the East Coast. And yeah, in a sec, I'll start and switch over to the live stream of the earnings call, which in the very beginning, it's always just, introduction and stuff will be a bit boring. They'll be reading the prepared remarks, and I'll switch over it. I'm just listening to it in the background. Meanwhile, let me know if everything's looking all right with the stream. I'll be taking questions. As always, feel free to ask them. By the way, you can only ask questions if you've been a subscriber to this channel since 5 months. Yes, we have a strict house policy here. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do it now so you can ask a question in half a year in the next earnings call. Meanwhile, yeah, maybe before the stream starts, which is just happening now. But as I said, it's just going to be boring, blah, blah, in the beginning. Let's go over this tweet that I've used here to announce that I'm going to live stream this event while hopefully this stream is filling up with people. You can smash a like, you can share it on Twitter, X, or Facebook, or wherever in your favorite investor community so that this gets more traction. I've just summarized the earnings a little bit from my perspective. Always take this as a kind of a individual opinion. It's my opinion, and as you know, I'm a NIO stockholder, so biased. But this has been my main takeaway. Cash balance increased from 4.3 billion to 6.2 billion. So major increase in the cash position and higher than my personal expectations. That's due to the funds that NIO has raised. I think that's been covered. Plus better cash flow than anticipated. And that's because net losses have decreased. So from those high net losses, I said this is my expectation. We now see them continuously go down quarter-over-quarter. It has started to do that. Vehicle margin increased from 6% to 11%, and gross margin also increased. So that means we actually make money on each of the cars that we're selling, but it's not yet enough to pay for all of the bills, for all of the overhead. But as you know, NIO has made some changes, one of them being today that they have changed, that they acquired the assets of the factory from JAC, so that will help them, that they have not to have to pay for some of the manufacturing fees for JAC. Plus, they have decided to let some people go. Plus, I'm expecting that R&D will also go down in the future when naturally they have to release less models now after this transition is done. Okay, now Li Bin is talking. Sorry, I'm just listening with one ear. That's why I'm sometimes taking a break. I'll tune in as soon as this is getting more important for you guys. Anyways, this is my quick take as a tweet, as a summary. But as you know, I've done the other live stream, which you will also find in the YouTube library. And so you can basically also re-listen to the whole recording of my earlier live stream. Then I also want to point out another one. This one is I think it's a German guy, Markus here, posted this one comparing NIO to XPeng. Gross margin positive for NIO, 8%, while for XPeng it's down minus 2.7%. Vehicle margin 11% for NIO versus minus 6% for XPeng. So you see, XPeng is actually not even making or covering the cost of each vehicle that they're producing. So it's not even going to pay down any of the other bills, let alone for the manufacturing cost. Whereas for NIO, we're positive and going up. Net loss has been smaller for NIO, no, higher for NIO than for XPeng. Oh, actually, I think I might have a little wrong number here for the net loss in my earlier tweet, but it's more or less the same. And the cash is actually higher for NIO than for Xpon. And revenue, of course, we know NIO has higher revenues than Xpon because we have got higher average sales prices and currently still selling more cars than Xpon. Meanwhile, Xpon is trading higher in the markets, I think almost 25% higher than NIO as a market capitalization. So that's crazy. Just wanted to point this out, as we have lots of negativity around NIO and its financials usually. I think some of these concerns have been cleared up today, at least for me. Now let's look at what they are going to say additionally, in addition to the earnings report that I've just covered. Now I'm going to switch it over to the call.
In Q4, as price war deepens and competition gets tighter for smart EVs, NIO delivered a total of 32,033 vehicles in October
Let me know
and
if
November,
you can hear it. I
up
think you should be able to hear the
32.2% from
conference
last
call
year,
now live.
while maintaining our prices stable. In Q4, the total deliveries are expected to be between 47,000 to 49,000.
公司将专注于销售策略的执行和运营效率的提升。我们相信，未来 NT2 平台车型的产品竞争力将在明年进一步释放。
Going forward, we will stay focused on executing sales strategies and improving operational efficiency. We believe the competitiveness of NIO's second-generation products will be further unleashed next year.
财务表现方面，受益于高售价车型占比提升、零部件成本下降、交付量增长带来的规模效应，结合销售政策的精细化管理，整车毛利率提升至 11%。
In terms of NIO's financial performance, attributed to the increased sales mix for higher-priced models, decreased parts costs, and improved economies of scale enabled by more deliveries, combined with the refined management of sales policies, the vehicle margin in the third quarter reached 11%.
接下来我跟大家交流一下公司产品研发和运营方面的进展。
Next, I would like to share with you the recent highlights of our products, R&D, and operations.
9月21日，蔚来举办创新科技日 NIO In， 首次全面呈现蔚来12大技术全站，覆盖智能电动汽车业务全景，支撑蔚来多品牌、多平台的业务发展，并发布中国首个整车全域操作系统天枢 SkyOS 和自研的激光雷达主控芯片杨戬，体现了蔚来行业领先的体系化研发能力。
On September 21st, NIO held NIO In, NIO's Innovation and Technology Day. At the event, NIO's 12 full-stack technology capabilities covering the holistic business scenarios for smart EVs from multiple brands and platforms were introduced to the public for the first time. In the meantime, NIO also unveiled China's first vehicle operating system, SkyOS, and the in-house developed LiDAR SoC named Yangjian, demonstrating NIO's systematic R&D capabilities leading the industry.
智能驾驶方面，蔚来持续进行系统能力的快速迭代。11月15日，我们推出了高速服务区领航换电功能 PSP 的 beta。目前，全国累计29座高速换电站已经支持 PSP。PSP 无缝连接 NOP Plus， 并且深度融合蔚来换电体验，实现了高速换电场景的全流程自动化和全程的领航体验。
Regarding assisted and intelligent driving, NIO has been quickly iterating the system capabilities. On November 15th, Power Swap Pilot for Highway Beta was released in China. So far, 29 Power Swap stations on highways already support this feature. PSP seamlessly combines NOP Plus and Power Swap, bringing new users a hassle-free highway driving and battery swapping experience that is automated and intelligent from end to end.
同时，增强领航辅助 NOP Plus 曾高速进入城区，为用户提供全域通行的点到点智能驾驶体验。我们基于通用泛化能力，以用户领航心愿单的热力为参考，按路线开通、路线共享、会线成网的方式，于11月开启城区增强领航辅助 NOP Plus 的功能体验。 目前，蔚来已经在部分主要城市对先锋用户开放了全域领航辅助 NOP Plus 的使用，城区路线覆盖和触达城市的数量在快速增加，已经大大超过了创新科技日提出的目标。我们将在近期的智能驾驶沟通会上和大家分享更多相关信息和计划。
In the meantime, NIO has rolled out the NOP Plus for urban traffic, providing users with uninterrupted driving experience from point A to point B, both on highways and on city streets. Enabled by NIO's generalization capability in-house and taking into consideration the high demand routes on users' wish lists, we've started to roll out NOP Plus for cities, route by route from November, and will gradually realize wider coverage. At present, the NOP Plus has been released to early bird users in several major cities and is quickly becoming available for more routes and in more cities, which has far surpassed the target announced at NIO. At our upcoming NAD communication event, we will be sharing more information about that.
销售和服务网络方面，截至目前，包括快闪店在内，我们开设了468家蔚来中心和蔚来空间，覆盖152个城市，拥有314家服务中心和62家交付中心，覆盖217个城市。
In terms of the sales and service network, so far we have 468 NIO House, NIO Space, and pop-up stores in 152 cities, as well as 314 service centers and 62 delivery centers in 217 cities.
充换电网络方面，截至目前，我们全球已经累计布局2226座换电站，超过9400根超充桩和11000根目的地充电桩。与此同时，我们的充电地图在全球接入第三方充电桩超过146万根。
As for the charging and swapping network, to date, we have installed 2,226 power swap stations, over 9,400 power chargers, and over 11,000 destination chargers worldwide. More than 1.46 million public chargers have been connected with NIO's charging map.
蔚来换电体系已经过多年的验证，为蔚来用户提供了超过3200万次便捷、高效、安全的换电补能服务，成为蔚来用户最信赖的补能方式。蔚来能源云与蔚来换电网络开始向行业开放。11月，蔚来与长安汽车、吉利控股分别签署了换电合作协议。蔚来将与更多的行业伙伴一起，在换电电池标准、换电网络、换电车型研发、电池资产管理等领域展开合作，为更多的智能电动汽车用户提供可充、可换、可升级的家电体验，共同推动换电模式的发展和普及。
NIO's long-tested and well-proven battery swapping system has offered over 32 million convenient, efficient, and safe battery swaps to NIO users, making Power Swap the most trusted recharging solution for them. NIO Power Cloud and NIO's Power Swap network have been opened to the entire industry. In November, NIO partnered with Chang'an Automobile and Geely Holding respectively on battery swapping. In the future, NIO will join hands with more industry partners in such areas as formulation of swappable battery standards, battery swap network, R&D of battery swapping vehicles, and the management of battery assets, so as to provide the holistic, chargeable, swappable, and upgradable solution to more smart EV users and jointly contribute to the development and wider adoption of battery swap.
蔚来与用户1年1度的盛会 NIO Day 将于2023年12月23日在西安举办。我们将于 NIO Day 发布一款全新的旗舰车型，这款车是蔚来技术创新的结晶之作，将成为全球智能电动汽车的技术标杆，引领智能电动汽车技术的发展趋势。
NIO Day, NIO's grand annual gatherings with users, will be held on December 23rd in Xi'an, Shanxi Province. This year, we will unveil a brand new flagship model, a real epitome of NIO's innovative technologies. This product will become a technology benchmark for smart EVs and a trendsetter of the smart EV technologies worldwide.
9月26日，蔚来凭借电动汽车换电关键技术 构建低碳可持续的产业新生态，获得了2023年保尔森可持续发展奖的绿色创新类别年度大奖。该年度大奖是对未来换电技术和业务模式的创新性、可复制性、经济和环境双重效益的认可。
On September 26th, with contributions to shaping a low-carbon industry with innovative EV battery swapping, NIO received the Green Innovation Award of the 2023 Paulson Prize for Sustainability. This award is a recognition of the novelty and expandabilities, as well as the economic and environmental benefits of NIO's battery swapping technology and business model.
11月8日，2023未来杯中国大学生方程式系列赛事在合肥正式开启，并于11月12日圆满收官。自2015年起，未来连续9年深度支持中国大学生方程式系列赛事，至今该赛事已累计为中国汽车产业输送人才超过4万名，成为了中国汽车工业人才的重要摇篮之一。
The 2023 NIO Cup Formula Student China, a racing car design competition for college students, was held from November 8th to November 12th in Hefei. NIO has been sponsoring and supporting the competition since 2015. So far, Formula Student China has cultivated more than 40,000 young professionals for China's automotive industry, becoming one of the most important cradles of young automotive talent in China.
未来2年将是汽车行业变革期竞争最激烈的阶段。面对外部环境巨大的不确定性，我们近期梳理和调整了公司的关键目标、优先事项、行动计划，专注于高效执行和体系能力提升，在确保核心关键技术持续投入、销售服务能力的能够应对激烈的市场竞争，3个品牌9款核心产品如期上市的前提下，我们将持续变革内部工作流程与分工，聚焦于能够提升公司财务表现的项目投入，全面提升组织效率和资源使用效率。我们对未来在智能电动汽车领域的长期竞争力充满信心。
The next 2 years will see the most intense competition during the transformation of the automotive industry. Faced with massive uncertainty in the external environment, recently we've sorted through and adjusted our key objectives, priorities, and action plans to become more focused on efficient execution and improvement of system capabilities, while ensuring long-term investment in core technologies, strong sales and service capabilities to navigate the intense market competition, and on-time release of the 9 core products from the 3 brands. We will continuously optimize internal working processes and the division of roles and responsibilities, stay focused on projects that can contribute to the company's financial performance, and comprehensively improve organizational efficiency and resource utilization. We are very confident of NIO's long-term competitiveness in the smart EV industry.
感谢大家的支持。现在 Steven 将为大家介绍2023年第3季度的财务业绩。有请 Steven。
As always, thank you for your support. With that, I will now turn the call over to Steven to provide the financial details for the 3rd quarter. Over to you, Steven.
Thank you, William. I will now go over our key financial results for the 3rd quarter of 2023. And to be mindful of the length of this call, I will reference to RMB only in my discussion today. I encourage listeners to refer to our earnings press release, which is posted online for additional details. Our total revenues in the 3rd quarter were 19.1 billion RMB, representing an increase of 46.6% year-over-year, and an increase of 117.4% quarter-over-quarter. Our total revenues are made of 2 parts: vehicle sales and other sales. Vehicle sales in the 3rd quarter were 17.4 billion RMB, representing an increase of 45.9% year-over-year and 142.3% quarter-over-quarter. The increase in vehicle sales year-over-year and quarter-over-quarter was mainly attributable to higher vehicle deliveries. Other sales in the 3rd quarter were 1.7 billion RMB, representing an increase of 55% year-over-year, an increase of 4.5% quarter-over-quarter. Gross margin in the third quarter of 2023 was 8%, compared with 13.3% in the third quarter of 2022 and 1% in the second quarter of 2023. The changes of gross margin year-over-year and quarter-over-quarter was mainly attributable to the changes of vehicle margin. More specifically, vehicle margin in the third quarter was 11%, compared with 16.4% in the third quarter of 2022 and 6.2% in the second quarter of 2023. The decrease in vehicle margin year-over-year was mainly attributable to changes in product mix, partially offset by the decreased battery cost per unit. The increase in vehicle margin quarter-over-quarter was mainly due to changes in product mix as well as decreased promotion. R&D expenses in the third quarter were 3 billion RMB, representing an increase of 3.2% year-over-year and a decrease of 9.1% quarter-over-quarter. The slight increase in research and development expenses year-over-year was mainly attributable to increased personnel costs in research and development functions, partially offset by the decreased design and development costs and deduction of expenses due to support for technology advancement provided by local government authorities during the third quarter of 2023. The decrease in research and development R&D expenses quarter-over-quarter was mainly due to the support for technology advancement provided by local government authorities during the third quarter of 2023. SG&A expenses in the third quarter were 3.6 billion RMB, representing an increase of 33.1% year-over-year and an increase of 26.3% quarter-over-quarter. Loss from operations in the third quarter was 4.8 billion RMB, representing an increase of 25.2% year-over-year and a decrease of 20.3% quarter-over-quarter. Net loss in the third quarter was 4.6 billion RMB, representing an increase of 10.8% year-over-year and a decrease of 24.8% quarter-over-quarter. Our balance of cash and cash equivalents, restricted cash, short-term investment, and long-term time deposits was 45.2 billion RMB as of September 30th, 2023. Now, this concludes our prepared remarks. I will now turn the call over to the operator to facilitate our Q&A session.
Now, finally, to the fancy point of this call, the analyst
questions. If you wish to
questions.
ask a question, please press star one on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. If you wish to cancel your request, please press star two. If you are on a speakerphone, please pick up your handset to ask your question. For the benefit of all participants on today's call, please limit yourself to 2 questions. And if you have additional questions, you can re-enter the queue. Our first question comes from Tim Zhao with Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for taking my questions. I actually have 2 parts of the questions. The first one is about the battery swapping, because NIO, as just mentioned, further expanded its strategic alliance in battery swapping from previous partner like Sinopec to Changan and Geely. Could you share a little bit more about your plans of how to structure the new alliance of battery swapping and the potential financial impact, like your capex and operating loss? So in the long term, will you consider to spin off the battery swapping business and operate it independently, or even go public as a standalone third-party battery swapping or utility operator? So that's my first question.
谢谢 Tim。
Parts
对，
of
我
that I
们
have
这
been
个最近也
speculating on
和长安和吉利
in
的
my
这
recent
个
videos.
换电
Let's
的
see.
战略
I
的一个合
guess we
作。
will not get a full answer to
当然
this. Yeah, regarding the revenue, of course, maybe a little bit of an outlook. But whether or not they'll spin it out, I think they won't be saying that today. But yeah, we've got quite some interesting topics actually for this call, so let's hope for some really punchy analyst questions. And given like how good the cash balance is now looking again, and with the news that they purchased a factory today, let's also hope a little bit that the analyst questions are a little bit more forward-looking and not too much all about the weeklies in deliveries and stuff like that.
Recently, we have announced the cooperation agreements with both Chang'an and Geely on the battery swapping. And in terms of the battery swap network, the way we look at it is a bit similar to the cloud service or the cloud infrastructure. Both power swap stations and the cloud infrastructure require and rely on the network effect. Both can have a pretty long investment cycles, and both are actually started with the internal services first, and after sufficient validations and verifying the demands and the fulfillments for our users' needs, we will then open up the service to the public. So after 5 years of validation and internal services, we believe that we are ready to provide such network and service to the industry, and it's about time to open up the network to the industry.
当然，在说到换电的时候，我们一直说它有非常多的优势，当然是更快，用户的体验更好。那么对用户来说和社会来说都有非常多的优势。我们要。
So basically, this has also been one of my criticisms so far with NIO, that they are usually quite silent on, further increasing their potential for revenue stream, total addressable market, these sorts of things, where other companies are quite outgoing in how they are talking about this and also make it better trackable how this can actually be achieved. Versus for NIO, they only now started with the Innovation Day to speak about their tech capabilities at all, and we still don't really know what's the ultimate picture here for battery as a service, battery swap stations. I'm talking here on my channel about the potential of grid balancing, virtual power plants, those sorts of things. And now this question also around the revenue streams from sharing the network, as he's calling it here, making the analogy with Amazon. Takes long as an investment, but is giving network effects over time and then bringing it to the outside world at some point in time.
我们相信，我们的这样一个服务的能力、技术的水平、基础的网络的建设都是他们需要的他们也是从用户的利益的角度来讲，看到了这个服务的优势。
And as we all know that there are quite a lot of benefits with power swap, it is faster than charging, and also it has better user experience. It also brings values and benefits to users and also the society. Especially in China, many users living in the urban environments or compound and apartments do not have a home charger. In fact, actually, more than 50% of our users cannot install a chargers at home. In this case, battery swap becomes even more important and convenient for those users who do not have an home chargers. This is also very important for the mass market brand because NIO is, after all, a premium brand, and many of our users can still have a chargers at home. But for the mass market brand, the percentage of not being able to having the home chargers will be higher. That's why when we started to share our battery design standards and also specifications for the mass market brand to the industry peers, many of them are very interested in this alliance. We have already announced 2 agreements, and there are several more that are still in negotiation, as they also believe that with NIO's current battery swap technologies, service standards, and also service network, this is what they need for their product as well as for their users.
但我们相信换电的 business 长期来说肯定是一个可以持续，也有比非常好的盈利能力的这样一个 business。这个我们是经过我们实际的运营，我们已经充分的相信这一点。当然 NIO Power 的话，在投资方面 ，capex 投资方面，确实如果进行投资的进行进一步的网络的建设，当然是需要这样一些
So far we don't have a straightforward answer of how this will be turned into revenue streams in the future. Just some general remarks. Like I said, NIO is a little bit more closed and silent about these things. And I'm not expecting to answer them, that they will answer everything here. But still, would be nicer if they give a little bit of flavor where things are going, in my point of view. But Li Bin is still speaking, so maybe there will be still something coming here.
NIO Power 本身来说，我们的充电业务已经基本上 break even 了，因为我们80%多的这个电量都是由 NIO 以外的这个用户品牌的用户来使用的。那我们相信长期来讲的话呢，这个 swap service 也是能够盈利的。
By the way, we crossed 400 people in the live stream. Thanks for joining, everybody. This is the management call. I already did a live stream earlier this morning. Maybe you've been asleep in the US. Thanks for joining now. And you can watch the recording of my take on the earnings report, which my summary is just pinned here as a comment later on.
And also, in terms of the business model for the power swap, we believe that it is sustainable both from the business perspective as well as from the finance perspective. Especially after 5 years of operations and validation, we have confidence in the sustainability of battery swap. In terms of our battery swap network, as we will continue to expand our power swap network, there will be capex also relevant to such network development. But in the meantime, we are also looking for approaches where we may introduce partners into our power swap network. Basically, they will buy the battery swap station as a product from us, and then they will install the stations and hand it over to us for the operations. In this case, they will be holding this battery assets for us. There are 1,000 of stations already running based on this business model. So for the longer term, we will also be looking for partners holding the battery swap station assets. In terms of the NIO Power's charging service, itself is already almost breaking even. As you may know that 80% of our power was charged for the non-NIO users. So for the longer term, NIO Power charging will also be a profitable business. Actually, in certain areas and with certain charging stations, the operations with certain swap stations, the operations is already profitable. This is also, in terms of spinning off the power swap stations, there are some investors showing their interest into having power swap or power swap business as an independent business. We're also in conversation with them.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, team. Your next question?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Alan, for sharing all the details. So my next question is about the car manufacturing, because as you just mentioned, NIO announced to acquire the production facility from JAC. So first, does that mean NIO has been granted the manufacturing license? In the meantime, I think that means NIO officially shifted from the asset-light business model to asset-heavy. So in the near term, how should we think about the unit cost of vehicle manufacturing from fourth quarter onwards? So I think previously we provided vehicle margin guidance for 15% for December quarter. And in the long term, do you still think that the full stack in-house development, production, and direct-to-vehicle sales without relying on dealers would be the most ideal model for both NIO and Albus, the mass market brand, or if there will be any major difference? That's my second question. Thank you.
Stephen will answer this question.
Okay, so let me start with your question about the manufacturing, car manufacturing. During this acquisition, the manufacturing agreements between NIO and JAC are still performed as stipulated. And the production activities of the models in the corporation are going on normally. Going forward, if there is any change to the manufacturing corporation with regards to the rest models between NIO and JAC or other situation that constitute significant information after this acquisition or in the future, NIO will communicate with and disclose the capital market in a timely manner, complying with the red laws and regulations and the rules for listed companies.
Yeah, 对，我补充一下，就是如果我们这个完全由自己来制造的话，那么我们的制造成本大体上会下降 10%。
And also to add on to Stephen's comment, if we bring the entire manufacturing fully in-house, overall speaking, our manufacturing cost will be reduced by around 10%.
Great. Thank you very much, William and Stephen, for details. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Our next question comes from Nick Lay with JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
好，William跟凤伟跟管理层大家好。我有两个比较简单的问题。第一个是刚 William 提到说
So while the next analyst is asking his question in Chinese, these are very good answers, to be honest. Very straightforward. I thought there's many things which they wouldn't talk about, but talked about the profitability, talked about the way this battery swapping partnership model is going to work. So really good.
We allocate our resource to more important priorities. So if William can give us some example and elaborate a bit more on this initiative.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick. 总的来说的话呢，我们的一个原则吧，当然，首先我们经过这几年的发展，我们确实内部组织的话，有一些重复建设的这样的一些情况。
Sorry, it's a bit tricky here the way I share the live stream audio. While Li Bin is answering this question, which I cut off a little bit. Yeah, this franchising model is pretty interesting. They're gonna just buy the battery swapping stations and NIO's operating them, like the services for battery health management, NIO power services, and so on. This has both hardware as well as software revenues here. Hardware for the one time, also possibly benefiting the NIO fleet for more swap stations if they open it, plus the services which they will give as a proven model to these partners. So that's quite interesting. I think I will possibly run some Excel sheet calculations on that, some napkin cases here. Meanwhile, funny to hear like some of the analysts here asking these questions, not doing the homework, like how much savings they can be made from the manufacturing, 10% cost reduction if they take it in-house. And again, how I understood the CFO here, the deal is happening, but they need to stay compliant in the way they announce it. They cannot just go ahead and announce it if not every signature has been done.
In this round of organizational optimizations, we have identified several principles because over the years of development, we have some low efficiency positions and jobs and also some duplicated roles and responsibilities. In this case, we have identified these low efficiencies or redundancies in the organization. We've improved the processes of lower efficiencies, and we've also eliminated jobs and positions that are duplicated or are of low efficiencies. And also in terms of the projects deferred or terminated, basically we look at the projects and their financial contribution. If they cannot bring any financial contribution in the coming 3 years, we will be thinking about deferring them or terminating them. For example, if they cannot contribute to the gross margin or the P&L, they may need to be deferred or reconsidered. A quick example is regarding the in-house manufacturing of our batteries. We've identified that in the coming 3 years, bringing battery production in-house will not help us with the gross margin improvement. In this case, we have decided to defer the plan. We will still continue to do the in-house R&D of battery cells, battery materials, and the battery packs, but we will outsource the manufacturing of the battery packs for better overall efficiency and performance. So for this round of optimization, we've done a detailed and thorough review and adjustments, and also made necessary adjustments based on the needs of the business and the resources of the entire company.
当然，我们的3个高优先级的事情，我们认为在将来的2年里面，我们还是会坚持的。就是第一个，就是我们的核心关键技术的一些长期投入那确保我们在技术和产品的领先优势。 我前面也讲到了，我们在今年的 NIO Day 上会发布一款
So parts of this also seems to be a little bit chaotic, to be honest. Like they're talking lots of cost cutting, which is great. Of course, that's exactly also what the market wants to hear, and that's guiding the way to profitability more so than they've done in previous calls. So it's great. However, you start taking battery making in-house and have your own tech and stuff, and then suddenly you possibly also want to cancel it or putting it on hold, just showing you how chaotic the management can be, or Chinese companies in general sometimes. But it's a startup. Sometimes it's possibly necessary to do this in a bit of a unconventional way. But it seems like they have heard the shot. They know what to do, and they won't refrain from taking some hard measures there if possible, if necessary. So all in all, yeah, it's good to hear them talk open about this. So let's hope they can, bundle this time with actually meeting those targets. Because of course sometimes they are not meeting them, but I wouldn't say that this is a NIO specific issue. I would say this happens in general, especially with startups. And if you think about like how forgiving people are, for example, for Elon pushing FSD every other year and say next year we have it, and this time been very, very pessimistic actually in the earnings call about the growth projections of Tesla. Yeah, things happen, and some companies and managements maybe need to earn it a little bit more, the trust than others, but certainly they have also made mistakes in the past. So let's just hope that they also are a bit more lucky with running those things.
But in the meantime, we will still make sure that we don't miss our focus or dilute our investment and resources for the high priority items for the coming 2 years. The first is the long-term investment for the core technologies so that we can still keep leading in terms of the products and the technologies. As I've mentioned earlier today, at the NIO Day 2023, we are going to unveil a brand new flagship model, and this car will be equipped with a lot of state-of-the-art technologies that are leading the entire automotive industry. And our second priority is the continuous development of our sales and service networks. Recently, we have enlarged the sales teams. We have also increased the number of the point of sales so that we can get ready for the more intense competition in the coming 2 years. Because if we don't make such preparation, we will not be navigating the intense competition. An example is that in October in Shanghai, our sales volume has outnumbered that of BMW and Mercedes running on all power sources, including ICE cars as well as EVs. And in cities from Jiangsu or Zhejiang provinces, we are also establishing a pretty solid foothold with a pretty significant market share. But when it comes to lower tier cities like 4th tier or 5th tier cities, we still have a long way to go. Or in cities where the EV infrastructure is not yet ready, we are also not outperforming those well-established brands. In this case, we need to continue to develop our sales and service networks. In terms of our sales performance in Zhejiang, Jiangsu, and Shanghai, actually 50% of our sales volume is contributed by the sales in these 3 areas. On the one hand, it shows that our products are well recognized in the highly competitive markets in these 3 places. On the other hand, it also means that we need to further enhance our brand awareness in the lower tier cities. And the third priority in the coming 2 years is to secure the on-time release of our 9 core products from the 3 brands. We have already made investments, and the products of these 3 brands will be coming into the market very quickly in the coming 2 years.
Thank you, Nick.
好，谢谢，非常清楚。我这个问题也比较简单，就是行业非常竞争的环境下，比较多客户关心的问题就是我们在销量跟获利中间怎么去。
Yeah, the NIO Power business is very exciting. Although, of course, you need to see that some of these margins are traditionally a bit low on the power side and energy business. However, there are interesting software-like services, which they mentioned now in the call, and also grid balancing has some arbitrage trading opportunities. So overall, yes, I agree. The power business is possibly a little bit, underrepresented of how much potential is in there. But yeah, seeing also a shift of more analysts talking about it and management with that.
And how should we consider these two factors when it comes to the market competition? And are we still maintaining 50% of vehicle GP margin in 4Q and a long-term target of, let's say, 20 to 22% of vehicle GP margin sometime toward 24 or beyond? Thanks.
Yeah. 对我们如果从我们
The analyst questions are sometimes a bit difficult to understand. But I guess we can listen to the answer by Liben in English, which should give us a hint of what has been asked here.
那么这个调整的话呢，这个老用户也比较也能接受。
Yeah, good to see about positive comments about the management here. As I said, like we are all keyboard warriors. It's easy from our side to really criticize them, and NIO really has been criticized a lot. Even so far that even Liben noticed like everybody's teaching him how to be CEO, but we always need to be aware of that they have an entirely different visibility. They know stuff that we don't know. They have other time horizon as well. And I made in a previous video also the analogy or the example with Li Auto, which is now only releasing their first EV. Up to today, they have not sold one single pure battery electric vehicle, right? And they have to invest all of the infrastructure. They have to start selling battery electric vehicles because at some point they may not even get a green license plate with the range extender anymore. These cars are using oil, gasoline still, right? So NIO invested earlier and they invested aggressively and big. Of course, this is not great for the financials as of today, but I mean, you know, they're aiming for the big picture here in the long run. Doesn't mean they'll win it. Doesn't mean they will be successful. But you know, we just need to be careful with our comments sometimes as well on the strategy, on what they're doing right and wrong. On the other hand, they also said like, you know, they noticed that they've done some mistakes. I think Qin Lihong just pointed that out in a recent interview.
Our strategy
Let's hope they
for
just
the
become
third
better.
quarter is pretty clear. That is to keep our prices stable. Earlier this year in June, we have adjusted our user benefits. Actually, both our existing users and the new users were accepting this adjustment pretty well. So we may be the only company able to satisfy both existing users and the new users with a benefit adjustment. And since then, we have been keeping a pretty stable price strategy as we believe that it is beneficial to our brand image and also product competitiveness. And also users' experience and benefits. As going into Q4, the price wars deepens, the competition also gets more fierce. For many well-established brands, like our competitors, BMW and Mercedes, they're also slashing prices pretty aggressively. Even on their EV models, the price reduction can be as high as 31%. But we still keep a pretty stable price amid this fierce competition. This is also reflected, these stable prices also are reflected in our improved vehicle margin. So our longer term strategy will be keeping our price stable while continuously improving our vehicle margin. In the meantime, we will also improve our sales capacity, capability, and efficiency so that we can bolster our sales volume. But this can take time and we will be staying patient. We will not realize or boost our sales volume at the cost of our product margin, as this is not healthy for the longer run. Maybe Stanley can also add more information regarding the specific financial numbers.
Hi, Nick. Our vehicle gross profit margin is 11 for Q3, and we are confident to achieve a higher margin in Q4, considering more production efficiency, lower price of lithium carbonate, and also decreased part cost. Our target is also is still kept at 15% for Q4. And from long run, as an important project internally, we have started to further improve our cost structure for NT2 products by optimizing design, improving supply chain and production efficiency, and also business negotiation with our partners. As mentioned by William, our NIO brand keeps focus on premium market segments, and we will keep product prices relatively stable. So combine all those factors together, we believe our vehicle margin can be further increased to 15 to 18% in 2024. That's the general guidance for vehicle margin. Thank you.
Yeah， 当然从历史上来讲，我们在离涨价之前，我们最高是到过20多的，21左右。当然长期来讲，我们还是会在我们目标是超过15%，更长期。
And also looking at our previous vehicle margin history before the crisis of the lithium carbonate spike, we actually managed to realize a vehicle margin as good as 21%. So for a much longer term, we will also target at realizing a vehicle margin of about 20%.
Thank you, Nick.
好的，谢谢，非常清楚。
Our next question comes from Yu Qianding with HSBC. Please go ahead.
Thanks, team. This is Yu Qian here. I got two questions. Maybe we roll it one by one. The first one is on the cash position. We noticed the cash balance increasing quarter on quarter. Other than the strategic investment and the convertible bond, there is also still a 1 billion increase. Does that coming from the improving operation? Can you shed a little bit more light on that?
Hi, Yu Qian, this is Danny. In fact, the new product delivery ramp up in Q3, we achieved a positive operating cash flow. Going forward, if our sales can continue to grow, we are confident to realize a healthy operating cash flow. So that's for your first question. Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you. The second question is on the OPEX reduction. Thanks for William's sharing on optimizing the battery business. We also read there is also a headcount cut. Could you share more on whether there will be asset write-off during the process of the cost optimization, and then when we would expect us to reach a lean yet sustainable shape?
Yeah, hi, Yu Qian. About the cost optimization, we reduced 10% working positions and complete the adjustment in November. But for Q4, there will be almost no financial impact since we need to pay additional compensation for the employees who left the company, offset with less payroll cost. But for next year, together with the headcount reductions, we also delayed or canceled certain projects as mentioned by William. So the total impact to 2024 will be saving of total cost around 2 billion RMB.
Yeah， 当这个就是从我们预算当然是有还好有一个 net， 但是本身一次性的这个裁员费用还是有几亿人民币的一个相关的一个费用支出。
Yeah, around 200 million.
Yes, this round of optimization has helped us to improve the financial performance slightly over our previous budget. However, we do need to have some one-time expenses due to the severance package for the terminated employees.
Got it. That's clear. Thanks, William and Stanley. Yeah.
Our next question comes from Ming-Hsun Lee with Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Hello, William and management. Thank you for taking my question. My first question is regarding your second brand. help us in 2024. In the future, will you consider to share the charging station and the battery swap station along with the NIO brand? And also, will you also consider to share the sales channel with NIO brand? Thank you.
谢谢 Min。对我们第二品牌的这个第一款车，那我们在近期已经完成了 VB 车的这个试制，状态应该说非常好，是我们历史上新车型 VB 状态最好的一款车，所以我们对这个车的竞争力是非常有信心。当然我们还有足够的
Lots of questions on the operational efficiencies from the analysts. Some analysts really didn't do their work. Regarding the savings for the factory buying, I did a napkin case, like how many millions they would save in quarterly fees to JAC. And now also regarding the savings regarding the job cuts, I was expecting around 330 million annual savings, if I'm right. What they just guided for was 280 million annual savings. So coming close there, but not going to happen till 2024 because now they already also have to, pay some severance packages and stuff. So that's all right. But all in all, that's of course how you get closer to profitability. Ideally, we continue to grow sales.
Yes, when it comes to our mass market brand, codenamed Alps, actually recently we have just had the very first validation build of this brand, rolled off the production line. Actually, the condition of this verification build is pretty good. It can be maybe one of the best VB cars we have in the history of NIO. So we are very confident in the competitiveness of this product. And before the official launch and the delivery, we still have time to continue to optimize and improve the product. In terms of our power swap and the charging network strategy, for NIO, our battery swap network will be coming in two parts. The first is the exclusive network for NIO and the NIO users, and the second will be a shared network, not only for NIO users, but also for Alps users and other brands with swappable vehicles. In terms of the charging network, we've been sharing our chargers already to many non-NIO brands. In terms of the sales network, this will be separated. So they will have their own sales stores, but we will be sharing the service capacities and the facilities. So service centers will be shared between NIO and Alps.
Thank you, Min.
Thank you, William. Thank you. So my second question regarding your 2024 product, because this year you already update all of your new models and also launched some new models. So in 2024, will you have some facelift version of the existing model and start to use 800 voltage charging system on your car? So in this case, do you have any guidance about the battery swap station you will expect? Thank you.
Yeah. 对，当然这个汽车行业当然通行的会有一些小的改款，但是我们
So this one is an interesting bit, which they're now talking about how the sub-brands work together with these partner agreements and battery swap station network. I think I had this question earlier. Sorry, I'm just listening with one ear again. It seems that Alps will get its separate network, possibly with all of the other multi-brands and partners, which I pointed out before. If you stay in this live stream after the call is finished, I will again open the slide that I've done. I've showed that one in another video, but I will explain it again. I cannot cut off the live stream now with a new slide. Otherwise, I would show it now. Basically, separate networks. And for the NIO users, the benefit is they have the nicest big network of NIO swap stations, plus they can also use the additional one And so, yeah.
Yes, it's a common standard and the practices for the automotive industry to have model years or facelifts. But for our NT2 products, we will not have any major modifications or upgrades, as many of them were just newly launched or delivered to the market. To stabilize our quality and the supply chain, we will only make minor improvements and upgrades on our NT2 products. In terms of our plan for the power swap stations in 2024, as I've mentioned, we will be not only building our exclusive battery swap network, but also a battery swap network for sharing. On the one hand, we will build this power swap network for other brands, or that can be shared with other brands. In the meantime, we will also continuously looking at the demand of our new users, so that if there are any requirements or high demand stations or locations, we will also install stations there. But we are still working on the specific plans and the numbers.
Thank you.
谢谢William。
Our next question comes from Paul Gong with UBS. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for taking my question. My first question is regarding your sales team. I think in last quarter's earnings, you mentioned that you are going to significantly increase your sales people's headcount. May I double check how is this has been proceeding at this moment? Have you achieved your original target of expanding sales team, or have you adjusted your original plan?
Thank you, Paul. 我们从目前来讲，我们UO的 fellow， 也就是我们的销售的这个顾问，现在是已经超过5000多人啊，目前是5700人左右啊。但这里面呢，大部分的话呢，都是几个月内刚刚入职的，是超过绝大部分嘛，超过3000多人是这个近期刚刚入职的。所以他们要形成这个销售的能力的话，还需要一些时间。
So yeah, this seems to be one of the big questions here, like how this is exactly working. I will do a dedicated video again and again. I'm feeling sometimes I need to explain myself better of what I'm trying to say, but this one is going exactly in the direction that I pointed out before. Plus, we got some insights today of how they're going to monetize that as well from the partners. Of course, all of that will be in the future, but let me just do another video on that, just deep diving in that topic.
那当然接下来的话呢，我们会建立一个更好的一个考核的机制啊，包括一个培训的机制，也会给到他们更高效的这样一些销售工具。我们相信接下来的话呢，他们会逐步发挥出这个能力。
At present, for our frontline fellows, we have a team of around 5,700 persons, but many of them were just newly on board. Around 3,300 of them were newly on board into the company, and it still takes some time for them to really get to know the brand and also get familiar with the entire sales processes. Because for the newly hired fellows, we will spend around 1.5 months on the trainings, and afterwards they can start to sell vehicles to our users. According to our history data, a seasoned fellow on average will need to spend around 6 months to be familiar with the brand and the processes, and will becoming a real sales force for the company. So we need to stay patient with this newly hired fellows, as many of them just joined the company in September and October. But in the meantime, we will also completing and improving our assessment and evaluation systems, our training systems. We will also bring these fellows more efficient tools so that they can really make full use of their sales capacity and capability.
Thanks. My second question is regarding the R&D spending. I think this quarter you had about 300 million quarter-over-quarter decline on the R&D, and the explanation is some incentives from the local governments. May I quantify that number? And more importantly, is going forward, what would be your projected quarterly R&D spending?
Yeah, Stanley, yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, hi Paul. There are some slight decrease considering the some support we received from the local authorities. So, but on the long run, as we mentioned during the past also earnings call, our non-GAAP R&D investments per quarter will also be kept at RMB 3 to 3.5 billion. We, as mentioned by William in previous statement, we will also ensure investment in core technologies and also the advantages of technology and product and guarantee the timely launch of the new product. So the investment on R&D will not decrease. There will be a slight fluctuation across different quarters. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Chen Jing with CICC. Please go ahead.
好的，感谢接受我的提问。我这边是2个问题。首先，第一个，关于自动驾驶这一边，我们从9月份开始已经开放这个通勤路线的这种心愿清单的一个提交。
Okay, so first, couple of comments on the sales stuff. It's not up to force yet, needs some time. I noticed from my personal experience, but that's in Germany, that the service and especially the sales part is not as outgoing and fast as in China, and in China even NIO is lagging behind the other brands in my opinion. So this is definitely something which they have to tackle if they want to stay competitive, and of course we need more sales, we need more growth. So hopefully they have hired some good people there and make the right moves there. It's going to be crucial in my point of view. Just from my personal experience, I'm here signing up for Tesla Model 3 Highland test drive just to benchmark it as well. They're calling all of the time, whereas when I got my ET5, I really have to chase basically, and I'm paying money for it. I as a paying customer need to chase them in order to get the car in the end. That's not possible in my point of view. So that's definitely one of the Achilles heels of NIO. And yeah, let's hope they get this done.
谢谢常静。对，从 NIO 来说的话呢，我们的这个城区的这个 NOP， 城区的 NOP Plus， 我们
Still answering the question in Chinese. What else did they talk? So Jonathan is appreciating the conference call. Yeah, it's quite good. Except, remember, we just had this one question about R&D spend. It basically guided again to letting this stay as it is, which in a way is a good sign because, of course, R&D is an investment into the future. This is what NIO has done early on, and we'll reap the benefits of that. However, I think investors also want to see how you achieve profitability, and at some point maybe also R&D expenses need to come down a little bit. So not just fluctuate, but in relation at least they have to come down and will. But if they would show some efficiencies on the R&D side as well, and as I mentioned, cutting off the battery self-development, cutting off the phone initial team who's ramping up this stuff, all of that is R&D gone. Now they have the models ready. They don't need to validate each vehicle again and anymore. So this will be less R&D. Show us how this helps to improve the bottom line. That's my take here. So I think other companies are doing a little bit better guidance in this regard. And maybe the CFO had here an opportunity to correct the statements from before, but maybe that's what I said again. It's easy for us to criticize management here. They have possibly a different view. They know exactly what's going on. But if they would communicate more coherently how they are looking to achieve break even, I think the stock wouldn't suffer as much.
Actually, we leverage our generalization capabilities as well as the crowdsourcing AI capabilities so that we can roll out this NOP route by route for our users based on their demand. Of course, in the meantime, we have also formulated the data closed loop capabilities where we can really leverage all this data coming from the generalization and also cloud AI. At the NIO In, we have announced that by end of this year, we are going to open up the routes covering around 60,000 kilometers of mileage. And so far, our progress is pretty good. And we already have established the capabilities of releasing NLP Plus for early bird users in more than 100 cities. And we will be rolling out such service and invite our users into the program step by step, and so that it can be covering more cities with more users gradually. Of course, in terms of city-based or road-based autonomous driving or NLP, we do see some of our peers, they have some marketing slogans regarding their services, but we believe that NLP Plus, especially NLP Plus for cities, is a pretty serious service, and we would like to make sure that our users have a safe and also good experience. And then we will roll out the service and its coverage step by step. But overall speaking, our progress has far surpassed our expectations. And after all, we already have more than 100,000 vehicles running on the road. This will also help us to further formulate and improve our data closed loop.
Yeah, 我想强调的就是我们现在我们所有 NTR 的车，每一辆车都
Regarding all
标
those
配了这个
techie stuff like autonomous driving and so on, this is where they have become more outgoing. And with the NIO Innovation Day, this was kind of the kickoff presentation where they opened the big picture, I think, not very much in detail, but I'm expecting, and they just announced that before, that they're gonna have a separate dedicated event for NAD, autonomous driving functionalities. So that's of course the future. That's why we are invested. It's
Especially
awesome.
for every new NT2 vehicle, it is standard with 4 Orin chips and also 33 high-performance sensors. This will further help us to formulate the data closed loop and improve the data capabilities. And in return, we will also accelerate the capabilities for iteration. This is also a very unique advantage of NIO, which is quite different from any other competitors offering the similar service.
好的，谢谢。然后我这边第二个问题。好的，第二个问题是关于这个海外市场，这点是否还会现在是我们这个战略重心之一然后能否请这个再简单介绍一下整个今年23年我们在海外市场的这个运营
So
情况
NIO has been a bit criticized for their expensive hardware, but it's nice
以及渠道和这个基础设施
pushing back now by the management here, showing like, we have this hardware because we're going to show you what we can do with it. And also we have capabilities that others in the industries don't have simply, for example, using some of the chip in a shadow mode, some of the compute power of the chip as some sort of a fleet validation model for NIO user routes. That has been explained in the NIO Innovation Day. Looking forward to seeing more. Follow me on Twitter. So that's _MM85. And that's where you will find some of the videos that I've showed for NLP plus beta driving in the cities. So I've personally experienced that functionalities on highways in China where they use HD mapping. So as expected, it's working very good, but on par with some of the competitors. And now we see like the Chinese really leapfrogging here and heading ahead of the competition and bringing those services into the cities. Something that, for example, even Tesla cannot do, at least in China. In the US, of course, Tesla has the FSD beta program, but in China, maybe for regulatory reason, as of now, they don't have such capabilities. And NIO, the videos are looking quite good so far, also still with some problems, like sometimes it's going very conservative, very slowly, not always like a human driver would take such kind of roads yet. But the fact that they now start communicating that and putting it into cars of actual testers, of users, by the way, these are users, I think that's a positive. That's great to see.
At the moment, in 5 European countries, we have opened 6 NIO houses, 8 NIO spaces, 2 multifunction service centers, and also partnered with 54 authorized service centers. We have also installed 30 power swap stations in 5 European countries. But in terms of our business development in Europe, we're still at the early stage of the business development and expansion. We want to continue to test the water, ensure we have good user experience before we scale our operations and the business there. That's why volume is not a priority for us in terms of our European business. And in the coming 1 year, we will continue to be staying at this stage. We will make sure that our capability and capacity are sufficient to serve our users in Europe before we start to work on a higher scale.
好的，谢谢。我这边没有其他问题。谢谢。
还有问题吗？
Our next question comes from Jason Getz with Mizuho Securities USA. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
there's one more question.
Hi guys, thanks for letting me ask the question. You talked a couple months back about 20,000 vehicles a month in December, and we're running a little bit below that now. What have been the biggest headwinds there? Has it been some production challenges, maybe broader macro weakness, and then what would it take to get to that 20,000 units, and how should we think about the run rate moving through 2024 with the new sales force?
OK， 如果我们去看我们
Great
在
question. Let's see.
高端的纯电的市场的份额，就是我们在比如说我们在30
I
万
mean,
以上的
it's true.
这个
Liben
纯
spoke
电的市
before
场，我
that
们
they
的
are
market share 在今年的 Q3 是
looking at
在
20K monthly
45%。
sales towards the end
那
of
我
the
们其
year.
实一直
We're
都
slightly
非常
below
保持
that.
在40以
It's
上。
still a
那
growing
意
year.
味着什么？意味着
I
就
can
是
show
我
another
们
chart
事
later
实上
on.
来讲，在高端
But
的
of course,
高
it's a
端的
little bit
纯电
below
的市场的
expectations,
份
and
额是
also
一直
that's
非
where
常
some
有
of the
限。
distrust is
而
coming
且
from,
这个一直都
both
是
from
保持一个
retail
比较高
investors
的
as
一
well
个
as I think
比
some
例。
of the institutional
那
investors,
从另外一个
certainly
角度
from
来
the
说
buy
的话呢，
side,
确实
not so much
我
from the
们
sales side. If you
认为
see
在高
some
端
of
的
the
用户这一
analysts, like
块，
there was just
要
this
把
Morgan
它
Stanley note
转
the other
变
day,
成为这个
which
从油
also
车的
admitted,
用户
that
转
it's
到电
more
车的用
sluggish
户，
sales and
一
stuff,
下
but
子转
they
到
still
电车
had
的
an
话呢，
80
确
USD
实
price
这个
target
难度呢是
on the
有的。
stock. And
可
if
能
you saw my
在
channel, I
10
agree
几
with
万的
that. I
车、
think
20多万的车
there is
转化过来要
a
更
case
容
to be
易，
made
所以
that
他
NIO
们
should
更
be
多的还
valued
是会
around
比较注
20
重这个
USD right
使
now, up
用
to
的成
20
本。
USD,
高端
given
用户他
even
是考虑的成本
160,000
更
annual
多一
sales,
些。
because the growth is
那
still
这
there.
是我们
But
在
of
对
course,
这
we're
个
now
的我们
in a
是要有
very,
所
very
改进。
difficult
另
period
外一
for
方
the
面的话，
markets
我
in
前面也
general,
提到了基础设施的问
and
题。
risk assets. But
就
I
是
think
如果我们去
what has
看我们
proven
在
today, also with the
3
financial
个
report,
上海、江苏、浙江、
the
长
cost
三角，我们
saving measures
我
are
们的销
there.
量其
The cash
实
position
已
is
经在很
better
多
than
城市都已经超
anticipated.
过了 同样
Net
价
losses
位
are
的宝
going
马，
down.
甚至
So,
奥迪的
it's
这
happening. I
个燃
mean,
油车
the
的
right
销量。
levers have
但
been put
是
into
我
place.
们也 看
So
到我们在这
it
个
all
区域我
depends
们
now on
有，比如说我们在
execution and,
3
of
个城
course,
3个城
on
市
the
我们有
sales
700多座
execution
换
as
电
well.
站。
And that will be tricky.
所以
It's
呢， 基
difficult
础设施
environment,
对销量的助
but
力
it's
还是
certainly
非常
not
有
as
作用
bad
的。
as some people make it. And
那
especially
当
if
然
you
在
compare it
全
to
国来
some of the
讲的话呢，
competitors, I
我们
think
现在2000 多
Marcus
座换
here,
电站，
he posted this tweet
有将近
on
700座是在高速上，在
on
很多
Twitter
区
today,
域
which
的
I
覆
shared,
盖其实还是不
comparing
太
it
够。
to Xiaopeng,
所以
which is
基础
trading
设施对
30%
更广
plus
阔的这
in
些
market
市场
capitalization
用户来
compared to
说
NIO, and
也
has
是一个
lower
牵动
sales,
因素。
negative
所以这2
margins,
点的话呢，
more or less the
我
same
觉得是
net
目
loss
前
and a lower
2个
cash
需要
balance.
主要的
So
难
what's
点。
going
一
on
个是
here?
高端用户的
It's
这个
really sometimes the
购买
market
的
is not
心理，
fair, but
另外一个就
that's
是
the
这个
way
基
it
础设
is.
施在更广阔的
You
区域
need
的这
to
个基础设施。
tell a story.
那
It's also
24年
sentiment.
我们相信这个 trend 的话，
We'll see.
高端市
But
场我
you
们
know,
相
in
信
the
这个
long
转
run,
换会
in a
持
very,
续
very
的。
long run,
其实在过去2年里面更多是在
you know,
massive
the
market。
fundamentals they
24
count.
年我们
So
相信高端市场往纯电
let's hope
转的
that's
这个
just
趋
a
势会
short-term
继续。
period.
那
Although,
么
of course, it hurts a lot
我们也
as
看到
NIO
有一些
investor,
同行他们也推
and it
出来了，
feels
原来他们是做增程的
unfair
产品，现在也开
in
始
my
做
point of
纯
view.
电的产品。
But of
那
course,
这
there's
都会
also
加
those
速
who
这个
think
很
NIO
多
will
优
go
质用户
bankrupt.
往
They
纯
have
电
no
转的这个
future.
过程。
And
因
this
为
is
别的生意
also
可
a
能毕
case
竟
which
都
you
是
could
过渡
argue.
性。
The
那
question
这个
is,
其实对我们
how
来
high is the
说，
probability for
很
that?
乐于看得
I would say after
另外一点，
today's
当然就是
call,
基础设施
the
的建设，也越
probability
来越
for
多人开
this
始建设超终端，
bearish case
当然我们也会
is
进一步建设
lower
换电
than
站。
before.
那我
But
觉得这
that's
些也
just
是
me.
推动
And as I
建
say,
设
this is
动
not
力的
financial
推动。
advice.
所以总的来说，
Um,
我认为24
You know,
年
read
比
those
23
takes,
年应
make
该
up your own
对我
mind.
们来说应该
Don't
会
believe
更加好
some
一
guy
些。
on
而且我们
YouTube
24年也不需要去
and
应对
then invest
产品
accordingly.
频繁的切换，
You need
这个
to
也会打扰一些我
manage
们
your own
一些
risk
销售的节奏。
according to finances. But my experience is, in the end,
Thank you
staying
for your
long
question.
pays better than
As
staying
we've
short,
mentioned
than being
earlier
short.
today, in the premium battery electric vehicle segment priced over RMB 300,000, NIO has realized a 45% market share in the third quarter of this year. Actually, our market share in this segment has been pretty stable, around 40%. So this has proven that we have a relatively solid foothold in the premium BEV segment. We have a pretty significant, also stable market share already established in the segment. But when it comes to convincing users of premium ICE cars of buying a premium EV, it is actually more difficult than convincing a mass market users. Because for the mass market users buying a car of 100,000 or 200,000 RMB, they pay attention to the ownership cost and also the usage cost of the product. But for the users of premium electric vehicles, they pay more attention to other factors. And the second reason that may be affecting the wider adoption of premium BEV is regarding the coverage of infrastructure. As I've also shared in the Yangtze River Delta areas, mainly Shanghai, Jiangsu, and Zhejiang, we have a pretty significant market share. Our sales volume has outnumbered that of BMW, Audi, and Mercedes with their ICE car sales. A very important reason behind is because we have 700 power swap stations already established in this area. So infrastructure is also playing a very important role in boosting the sales volume and the adoption of electric vehicles. So far in China, we have already installed over 2,000 power swap stations, but roughly 700 of them are along the highways. In some regions and areas, our power swap stations are still not widely accessible. In this case, we will need to also speed up and enhance our infrastructure coverage so that we can further boost the wider adoption of electric vehicles. So basically, two main reasons. The first is regarding the consumption habits of the premium vehicle users, and the second is mainly because of the coverage of the infrastructures for electric vehicles. And but we believe that this trend, convincing ICE users of buying EVs, or this overall trend of transforming into battery electric vehicles, will be picking up its speed, because we also find that some of our peers and competitors, before they only have hybrid vehicles or range extended vehicles, but now they're also launching their battery electric vehicles. Such strategy will also push the transformation of the entire industry. So we are actually happy to see such transformation. And also many car companies are now also installing and expanding their charging network, and NIO is working on our battery swap network. With wider infrastructure, we will also boost the adoption of the battery electric vehicles. So overall speaking, we believe that 2024 will be better off than in 2023, because in 2024, we will also be having a more stable product portfolio without frequent product launch and delivery, which has also slightly disturbed our overall execution.
Got it, thanks. And then quick follow-up. On the battery swap partnership side, is there any kind of design changes that your partners would have to do to their vehicles in order for them to use the swap stations? And if so, have you guys talked about what % of mix of vehicles they produce might need to be kind of changed or edited in the production process in order to do battery swapping?
对，我们是开放我们的这个 massive market brand 的这个所用的这个 battery pack as a standard battery pack， 给到这个别的合作给到别的汽车公司，他们会基于我们的这个电子包去开发他们的车型，他们需要对底盘。
Interesting question, and I'm hearing already that Libin is going into some of the specifics, so that's good. A couple of new analysts here now on the call, that's great. Haven't heard about what's the other guy called, Deutsche Bank. Yeah, good earnings call so far. I like it.
Actually, we have shared the battery specs and also the design details of our battery packs for the mass market brand to our battery swap partners, and they will need to design and engineer their vehicle products, mainly chassis interfaces, following our battery standards. it will take some time for them to decide on the right models and complete the product R&D. But the overall investment and R&D expenses for developing such new models based on our battery standards won't be very high.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
As there are no further questions, now I'd like to turn the call back over to the company for closing remarks.
Oh, wow.
Thank you again for joining us today. If you have
We're at
further
the end of
questions,
the
please
management
feel
call.
free to contact NIO's.
Let me close this one down. Perfect. Now, this was a good call in my point of view. I don't know what you guys think. Happy to take a couple of questions now. Finally, we made this call end before the trading starts. In the last couple of earnings calls, I had some issues with that. So now let me also share some other screens and slides here, walk through some stuff. Just give me a second. Yeah, this was what I mentioned before. People keep looking on weekly numbers and stuff. And this was actually a picture shared by somebody in our Patreon community this week. I've been sharing these slides before as well in our own CI and stuff, but just taking the screenshot here from CNEV Pulse, which by the way is providing great coverage. A trend is up for deliveries and sales, even though they are struggling sometimes, and as explained, and they are fluctuating. So we had a high in July, but I never bought into some of these narratives out there that I see sometimes also floating around with some social media accounts regarding 30K monthly sales and things like that. I think it's not great if we push our expectations too high and then get disappointed. It's better to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. There are obstacles for sure. It's definitely not going 100% according to plan for NIO, or else they would be selling 20K a month already. And who knows, it might be very challenging going into Q1, because as you can also see here, Q1 is always lower than the Q4. And so expect that this will be, again, a difficult time starting 2024. But that's just the cyclicality of automotive business. But of course, we need growth in the next year as well. But so far, the overall trajectory is up. And they just explained that this is a more difficult task in the premium to luxury segment in which NIO is operating. We know the sub-brands are coming. We know multi-brands and partnership brands are coming. So at some point, we also diversify more into different customer segments and also into different business segments. Also, the energy business, the battery swapping business seems to be at a ignition point. NIO invested early in order to have this advantage. That's why they're now selling it into the industry. We see the first agreements being signed there. But yes, of course, these agreements are nothing more than some ink at some point currently, but in the future, hopefully will provide revenues, as Bailey Gifford, one of the biggest investors, has pointed out before. I think I also, again, showed this in one of my earlier videos, and please excuse, this was just scribbled briefly, so this is not one of the greatest slides that I've ever done, but just going to show the idea here, which I think in this earnings call was reiterated, that there will be possibly a new battery swap station coming out that will be geared towards the multi-brand approach with the partners. They will be selling, that's the news today, those brand swap stations to other brand partners. So this is also a way how they will generate money. NIO will keep its battery swap stations independent for their users. It seems that the UPS brand will be sharing those swap stations, so the swap stations of this partner network, and possibly these swap stations will be located on highways as massive 6 drive-through channel swap stations with a larger throughput, but of course shared between different brands. So that's the idea. I think we got some confirmation and validation for that today. but the fine print is still not there, right? We cannot yet put a number on it, and I think that's also one big reason why the stock hasn't moved to it yet. You can just hear from some of the analyst questions today that people are still not understanding NIO completely. Even some of these analysts don't know how to make sense of the JAC purchase of the manufacturing plants. They don't know how to make sense of the effects of the employee cuts that they've made and stuff like that. So it will take some time also for them to digest it. But certainly, that's just my opinion. But from what I've heard today, most of it is going into the right direction. Although I just also want to point out that, yes, there are still some major issues to overcome, and NIO needs to become profitable, or else will be a failure, right? So one other tweet that I retweeted earlier, which again I want to point out here because he's also joining here our live stream. Let me just try to bring it up. Sorry, I have to navigate between screens here. So here we go. This is my Twitter profile. If you're not following it yet, please find me at _mm85. I'm more active currently as I'm busy with my new family here. Not doing that many YouTube videos, but I'm active in our Patreon community every day. So this is the network which you could join if you want, a group chat where we are discussing things, and a live stream, or some sort of a timeline, a Facebook-like timeline, where I also put out extra content from time to time. And yeah, on Twitter, I reposted this tweet here by Markus Rapke. Yeah, must be a fellow German guy. About the comparison of the gross margin, weaker margin, net losses, cash, and revenues of XPeng and NIO. And as you know, XPeng market cap has overtaken NIO, and I'm not hating on XPeng here. I think they've done incredible moves earlier than NIO in order to clean up the company and become more profitable, or not profitable, but more streamlined. They're still fighting with profitability too, right? They're losing 530 million a quarter recently with negative vehicle margin, meaning every vehicle they sell, they don't even cover for the manufacturing cost, versus NIO making money on each of the vehicle that they're manufacturing. And NIO has higher cash position now than XPeng, and higher revenues. So, that goes to show that sometimes, investors might not be confident, and due to other sentiment issues are not rewarding NIO stock as they should, in my point of view. But in the end, I think this will all pan out over time if NIO is able to execute on their vision. So just wanted to share this because I thought that's a nice wrap up here. And I also would appreciate if more people start publishing their opinion about NIO on Twitter, for example, on YouTube, on our Patreon community, and so on, because ultimately, NIO has also this great potential of being a social company, a user-first company that can really also enable more people building businesses around this. This is also why I'm covering the company, because I think it's exciting what they're building. And yeah, this is hopefully going to turn out as a happy story in the end. I know the stock price has been depressed for various reasons, but from time to time, it's just important to show what's going to happen in the future. Plus, pointing out this long-term trajectory here, which will have fluctuations and challenges from time to time. But all in all, I think it's all right. Now let's dive through some of the questions here, if there's still some. I'm talking a lot. I think you can hear by my voice. I'm almost out of what I want to say. But let's see if you got some more questions. Is the purchase of JAC finalized? If yes, when is NIO taking over, and will be the benefits in terms of cost? Yeah. Thanks for the question. You may have missed some parts of the streams because that was explained both by the CFO as well as myself regarding costs Let me pull up one of the tweets that I also put out. I think I posted that one again yesterday because I think I have some actual numbers to share here. So NIO was had to pay JIC like millions of dollars every year in order, just as a fee. So this is not manufacturing cost. This is just as a service fee. They had to pay this. And according to my napkin case, I think that would have increased to 200 million this year. Possibly they still have to pay it this year, of course, and 2024, maybe 300 million and more. That will be saved in the future when this deal is done. Is this deal done yet? No. On a legal form, no. That's what the CFO said today. They will announce it with a SAC announcement, I suppose, because there are some legal hurdles. Maybe they need to go to notary still, need some signatures, whatever. There are still some things to be completed, but it's definitely happening. That's my take here. But of course, they can only do that in a fully compliant manner and announce it when it's really, really, really done. So they cannot go today on an earnings call and say, this is already done. But at that point in time, they will be saving that money. And again, as pointed out in the earnings call today as well, they will also be saving on the employee cost cuts. Let me see. Maybe I can find my tweet here. I need to check if I can find this earlier tweet that I've done regarding the employee costs. 10% headcount cut, right? And that should translate also in hundreds of millions of I know where I can show it to you guys. I have it on my Excel sheet on the napkin case here. Sorry, it's a bit chaotic with all of the screens open. Now let's switch. So this is the napkin case that I've done a while ago. I think I showed it in one of my videos. I've tweeted it for sure, and I've had it for sure in the Patreon community where I will always publish stuff like this before. And so I took the average annual salary, which is around 92,000 USD for NIO employees. These are high-paid employees that are being let go more or less because they are in the R&D segment and so on. And yes, you do earn a lot of money in big Chinese cities nowadays. So people are surprised of how high these wages are. But these are the average annual salaries for NIO in that regard. And I added a couple of payroll contribution costs here, because of course you also have to some tax implications, some social security implications, and so on. And I came up with annual cost savings of around 337 million USD. Today they gave a specific number, I think, which converts into 280 million USD of annual savings. So the numbers, I was a bit more optimistic here, but maybe they might even reduce the cost a little bit, the staff more than by 10%. So maybe we get some additional savings, but the employees plus the factory cost savings in total, which should get us along to 600 million, almost maybe at some point 1 billion in annual cost savings. So that's great again. Right, what else? Good question by Andrea. Did the badge, which was on a NIO cars, which said, of course, that this is a JAC manufactured car, take away some sales? Well, it could. Some people have removed this badge in the past. Maybe I also showed this here yesterday in a tweet. This is how it looks. So this is on NIO cars currently, and this will not be on NIO cars in the future. And some people have scrapped this off before because as a state-owned manufacturer, which is funnily has been producing some commercial vehicles in the past, some people argue that this has possibly taken away a bit of the premium image. Yeah, maybe some. I would say it's not a major buying decision factor, but possibly will help to improve the brand going forward as well. Yeah. I think there's about 0 chances that Tesla will join battery swapping partnership. Tesla is going down another line. They just care about cost cutting, and they just care about structural packs, which I think is also a fine strategy. Personally, I'm not opposed against supercharging. I think supercharging is working fine, but I agree with NIO that there are a couple of benefits to battery swapping that supercharging will never have. If we talk about the age of autonomy, you can now already let your battery swap fully autonomously. That includes not only the swap itself, but also the approach of the swap station and the exit back to the highway, the drive on the highway. So at some point, you may actually direct your car to go and get a new battery for yourself. I don't know how that's going to work with superchargers. And to be honest, it's always going to be faster with battery swapping than with the superchargers, because battery swap stations also equally are benefiting from higher charging speed and new technologies and new battery packs. And yeah, I'm not going to go through all of those 9 benefits of battery swapping. I think you know them by now. But I'm personally also very excited about the prospects of NIO Power in terms of that these battery swap stations become a part of the grid and help balancing it, having a dual use in that regard. And so we got the news here in the earnings call as well that profitability of the battery swap stations itself is also in the making. And that's good to hear. I don't doubt that this will happen. I think battery swapping itself can become a profitable cost unit by itself. So I don't agree with some of these Tesla folks out there, which, by the way, I'm a big investor in Tesla myself. So, I've no need of talking down supercharging. I've no need of talking down Tesla, but I see 0 chances of Elon Musk joining that. He's very in his own world with scrapping LiDAR, scrapping battery swapping, and so on. I think they did battery swapping in the past because they also got subsidies by the Californian state and other US states. So that helped Tesla in a moment of time when they had also some financial difficulties. And I think they never took it very seriously. They only had a test with around 100 users in California. And, NIO operates at a totally different scale of battery swapping than Tesla. You cannot judge by 100 people using it whether or not this will be successful and working and being adopted, right? So I think Tesla never took it really seriously, and possibly Elon Musk, he's also taking some punches at NIO from time to time, pointing out how I covered that on the channel as well. When NIO was laying off employees, he was like tweeting at around this and say, oh, NIO might be in trouble. So I think he's seriously concerned around NIO as a competitor. Now they're moving also into the sub brands, which would be more directly competing with Tesla. I think currently the NIO brand isn't competing too much with Tesla, to be honest, but certainly getting some old Tesla users to switch over to NIO. That's happening at some points. But the sub brands, they will compete with NIO. And frankly, I have some, being invested in Tesla as well, I'm having some issues with the fact that NIO is increasingly becoming like Tesla on the business model side now, with also purchasing the JIC manufacturing side. So that will put them more also on this cost reduction path, taking over more on their own manufacturing, vertically integrating more, and so on. So yeah, that's pretty much the Tesla playbook, and I'm not too happy if NIO is kind of copying more of Tesla, if you will, because I always thought NIO is an interesting investment case because the business model is so different from Tesla and they're going a different approach. That's why I'm personally, hands down on the NIO houses strategy. I like battery swapping. I like all of the stuff that Tesla is not doing, just for the case of that. And that's why I think it's a nice, investment besides Tesla, even if you're invest in a Tesla bull. At least that's my personal decision. But to be honest, I'm also getting a little bit more, skeptical on the Tesla sales in China. The competition is fierce. It's also very fierce for NIO. That said, I think NIO is also struggling with competition, but that's also why I'm now test driving also the Model 3 Highland. I'm not sure like how well they can continue to stand out in China. Just doing price cuts going forward can't be it, right? They also need to come up with some more innovative and more competitive vehicles again. But saying that, also just sitting in the Model 3 Highland. I really liked it. Also compared to the ET5, which I've experienced, I still think it's a good car. So I'm not totally writing off Tesla. I'm not a Tesla short seller here. Definitely not. No. But anyways, yeah, I'm possibly giving you a little bit too much of a detailed analysis here already. So let's take one more question, maybe. Do you think Mercedes will be swapping partner after the announcement, the BMW supercharging partnership? Yes, I do think Mercedes-Benz will be a swapping partner at some point in time. I think I've laid that out in my videos all of the time. I said, though, that I don't know when the announcement will be made, but I do think they will be one of the partners. At least that's from all of the information that I'm gathering. It's pointing towards it. And I think it would be a good move for Mercedes-Benz as well to build maybe some of their own vehicles on top of the NT3 3.0 platform, which will be the Alps platform. But I think that will be the open partnership platform. And I think Mercedes-Benz might be one of them. Don't nail me down on this. I might be wrong with that. I know this rumor is floating around since quite some time. I've covered it. That also some Mercedes-Benz managers are objecting it. I think that's natural. I think that's normal. But in the end, I think that will make a lot of sense from where I see the industry, where it's heading. And why not? With Geely now being a major shareholder in Daimler, they might have the leverage also over Mercedes and pointing them nicely towards what might be a way of preserving some sales in China, which is a very important market for them. So we'll see. Maybe it takes them some more time. Maybe a politically difficult decision to announce as well. And do I think the BMW Mercedes partnership is putting that rumor to rest? No, not at all. I think this cooperation will go nowhere. Mercedes-Benz is almost not selling any EVs in China. It's really ridiculous amounts that they're selling. And so it's interesting to see BMW partnering up with them on this network, because BMW is actually selling some quite substantial amount of cars, EVs also in China. So I'm not sure what's their incentive to subsidize Mercedes-Benz here in that partnership there. I think this partnership is mainly cosmetics and marketing. They will never catch NIO, even on the supercharger build out. NIO is the largest private owned supercharger network in China, even without battery swapping, just superchargers. And they won't catch that speed anymore. But of course, they're selling a premium to luxury car here with BMW and Mercedes. Of course, they also need to have some own branded superchargers. So they will build out some here and there, but they will never be able to compete with the Chinese. So ultimately, in terms of sales, when they need and want some solutions, I think at some point they might not get around of partnering with some of the Chinese there. So that's my most recent takes on these matters. And so, yeah, I've almost no voice anymore. I don't want this stream to become too long, almost 2 hours. So thanks for joining, everybody. It's really great to see up to 500 people here in this live stream, despite all what's going on in the stock markets. I know it's not a difficult time, but overall, that's just my personal opinion and my experience. But you mostly win being long in the market over time. So it's more about getting a good average, understanding a company, and being able to own more of it in the end. So that's not saying that you need to buy a NIO stock. This is just a general remark. I think that's for every company out there. So that's why I'm doing this channel, to give you some visibility on some of the Chinese companies that are currently under the water, to be frank, but also underrepresented. And in my point of view, largely at interesting valuations. And let me just maybe finish it with one chart that I showed in the Patreon community yesterday, which, by the way, again, you can join us here and discuss with more than 300 investors and have daily updates also from my side. Just go to patreon.com/Dongxi. You need to become a 10 USD member in order to get an invite into this network here. And then I just shared this graph here, which is showing like how emerging market is underperforming against US stocks. This is crazy. Like how, thanks, Dirk. Like how bad Chinese stocks or emerging market stocks in general are doing against US equities. And this guy who's shared this is Vincent Mortier. He's running Amundi, or if I'm pronouncing this correctly, that's the largest European asset manager with 1.3 trillion euros under management. And he is here talking about this and commenting it's an extreme situation. The economic growth in the coming years will be coming from Asia. Also, the innovation will be coming from Asia. And so he said current markets are definitely ultra short-term, driven by momentum and speculative, often leveraged bets. Not healthy. I think parts of that is going on also in NIO stock. If we just look at Finviz data, I think there's currently 10% of the float and 140 million shares. 140 million shares short NIO stock, 10% of the float. That's not even the latest data. That's definitely more than a full trading day. It's rather three volume bars of a full trading day of NIO. So people are taking bets against these companies, and I mean that's their legitimate right to do so. But I'm personally hoping that they will be squeezed out at some point in time when NIO does the right moves. And I think today's earnings have been parts of the right moves. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Please smash a like, please share this video, and then see you in my next videos.